What's going on, everybody? Shonen Express here, coming to you with another weekly Shonen Jump newsletter. Let's just get right into it because I got a lot to say about this week's Shonen Jump. So first, the cover this week was One Piece, and One Piece is always going to deserve the cover. Biggest thing running in the magazine right now by far, so definitely always deserves it. But this chapter was a really good One Piece chapter. First of all, I want to talk about the color spread that we got for the beginning. I liked that it's the headliners along with the Toby Ropo from the Beast Pirates, or the Animal Kingdom Pirates, I guess technically the Viz calls them, but Kaido there and all of them. I thought it was a good color spread. I really liked the layout of it there. But moving into the actual meat of the chapter, there's several things that we could kind of focus on, but the first one I want to point out is I really like the stuff with Perospero and Carrot. I think it's cool that I think it's cool that Perospero is strong, because for a while it seemed like he didn't seem very strong in a fight by himself. But, seeing him take down Carrot and Wanda, it gives us an idea of, where Perospero is. And I really like his character. I like Perospero, so I'm glad that we got to see him put in some work. Obviously, I'm not, super happy that Carrot's getting beaten down. But, I'm glad that he is not, a weakling. And then we got, thanks to the whole Ice Oni thing that's going on in the main floor, we got to see Hyogoro the Flower in full form. That one move he uses was super cool. I love that he's an incredibly powerful fighter, and it makes sense, right? We heard that the Samurai of Wano are super strong, and we've seen that this arc for sure, so it makes sense. I loved all the stuff that we got to see with him, and his determination there at the end was super cool. And of course, Marco is fighting both king and queen. It looks like by himself, and he's holding his own. Oh, it's so cool. I'm a big Marco fan. First of all, I'm a big Whitebeard Pirates fan in general. The Whitebeard Pirates are my favorite crew in the show. And so to see Marco, to see the first division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates put in this much work was so cool. I love all the attacks we got to see Marco use. It was just really cool to see. And so overall, great One Piece chapter, great cover page chapter for sure. But moving on. There was nothing new in the magazine this week. Nothing ended in the magazine this week. Nothing was on break in the magazine this week, and there were no specials. So really nothing unusual going on in the magazine. Pretty normal week, which means I have several highlights to get to. And the first one I want to highlight is My Hero Academia. And I want to highlight this because I was absolutely incorrect. So if you guys saw my letter to home video on All Might, right? I came up with this argument of why All Might's a terrible teacher and a bad decision maker and just not that great of a hero, right? This chapter kind of in one fell swoop disproved the things that I said in that video. So I would tell you to go watch the video, but my opinions obviously changed because none of the things that I said there are quite accurate, or most of the things are no longer accurate. But so in this chapter we get to see in Deku's mind. He's in the One for All world there, and he's seeing the past users of One for All. I've got several questions. First question: why are two of them facing the wall? And I want to know everything that there is to know about those two. Why are they like that? I'm just very, very interested. Are they past users of One for All? I assume they were because they are here, but why is everyone else sitting down in chairs and they're facing the wall? So I would like to know that. It seems interesting. Really, All Might being the wispy, fiery thing is always interesting to me because he is still alive. I have a lot of questions, but we essentially, through meeting one of the other possessors of One for All, we got to see that One for All saps the vitality because having two quirks at once is nearly impossible. It's irreconcilable, right? And so when someone with a quirk gets one for all, it begins to shorten their life and they deteriorate. And this wasn't noticed very much because most of the users of one for all died in battle, not from like old age. But this guy, this possessor of one for all, did die of old age, but he died of old age at the age of 40. He died naturally at 40, which told them something went wrong. And that's where actually All Might in the present day was able to research this and find out that this is what One for All is doing. It's for those with other quirks, it's killing them. And so this didn't happen to two people so far, and that's All Might and Deku, because they don't have quirks. And so the only people that can successfully cultivate and inherit One for All are people without quirks. Now, I thought that was really cool. I think that's an interesting idea, and yeah, I thought it was cool. But it also invalidated all my points that I made about All Might. So he wasn't a moron when he picked Deku specifically to inherit One for All. He needed someone to be quirkless, and it's unclear right now if he knew that at that time. But I'm willing to say that it's quite possible he did know it. But so he needed someone quirkless, so it makes sense like that, you know, and he sees him in himself. The whole thing. This chapter made me like All Might a lot more. It made me think a lot more highly of All Might. He's a lot more analytical and a deeper thinker than I thought he was. And so, you know, some of my All Might shade I threw in that video, I gotta retract. So, you know, this is has invalidated a lot of my points. But one of the things this chapter did say that was amazing is that Deku will most likely be the last user of One for All that is like able to cultivate it to its full potential, because almost no one in society doesn't have a quirk at this point, which means that the likelihood of Deku finding someone to pass One for All onto who is quirkless is very, very small. And so most likely this ends with him, and so he's going to have to be the one to take All for One down in whatever form he takes. Right now, obviously, in the form of Tomura Shigaraki. So I'm very interested to see this, to see where this manga goes. It was really cool, and a universe-altering chapter for My Hero Academia this week for sure. But that'll bring us to the next highlight, which is Undead Unluck. I haven't highlighted this manga in a while. I think it got the cover a couple weeks ago, and so I highlighted it obviously back then, but I haven't really been highlighting it all that much as of late. But this chapter deserved to be highlighted. So we got a lot of background with Juice and Billy, them having their conversation about this. One of the things I thought was interesting is Billy's plan to like keep winter, and so when they defeat the other 3 seasons, he's there with Unburn to defeat or I guess it's just Burn, isn't it? It's not Unburn. Yeah, he's there with Burn to defeat Winter right away, so he gets the reward. So I thought that was an interesting plan and all of that. But honestly, this chapter made me kind of question why Billy defected and why he created Under to begin with. It doesn't seem like a very smart idea on his part, and their differences don't really seem irreconcilable. So I had some questions for that. It was cool to hear that the weapons that they have were actually made by the so-called god, essentially to kill him. So that was interesting to see, and obviously this final fight, or this big fight rather, that we're going to get between Juice and Billy, I hope it doesn't cut away. I really want to see this fight. Obviously, Burn and Spoil are both there, each fighting on the side of you know, Billy and Juice respectively, and they're going to fight. I love that the union's motto is, you know, if you have a disagreement, solve it with force, and so I'm really looking forward to this fight, so I hope it doesn't skip away. But I had to highlight it because there were a lot of world-building moments in this chapter, so I wanted to highlight this. Really, this is the world-building week, if I'm being honest. But moving on, we come to I Tell C. I had to highlight it this week. I Tell C is one of these new manga that just started recently, but I do have high hopes for this manga at this point. I will say the stuff that happened makes me a little nervous for how long it's going to go on, but I did certainly like it. So I like the stuff that we get with Ukon in the beginning, and how Ukon's just kind of not emotional, right? And like the stuff with, you know, that we haven't quite gotten a full picture of what happened to their dad, but you get just a hint that has made Ukon kind of, stoic, reserved. And so we see that in this chapter. And then the guy that's with them, that author guy, is like, heroes always show up at the last second, kind of encouraging Ukon to go in now and save them. And so I like that. I thought that was a nice, cute little moment that they had there. And obviously, I thought that it was very interesting how Aioi, solved the problem of this son that is like a serial killer who just takes hands. And his fate, he feels actually loved by her. It's an interesting dilemma. I don't know that I agree with the premise, but I think that it's definitely interesting, and it shows the humanity in people, in even this guy who, for most of this manga, was drawn as just a psychopath, right? It shows humanity in even the lower places, and I think that there's value in that. But that is not nearly the big part of this chapter. So after he's finally reformed, all of a sudden, the author guy shoots him, and we learn that he is the one that abducted Aioi in the very beginning. He's the one that started Aioi down this path, right? He's that criminal. This was a huge reveal. First of all, him just shooting that other guy in the head was insane. I never would have thought that would happen. It was crazy. It was crazy to see. But it was just over. It was just like, that's it. And he's the criminal, right? And they talk about that for a minute, but what I really want to focus on is Aoi's face. How angry she is there at the end. I'm so looking forward to the chapters ahead and seeing more about this. It's a very interesting kind of mystery-esque manga, and I'm really interested in it now. I'm really liking where we're going, and I really want to see what Aoi's response is to him being back. Why is she so angry with him and him alone? I have so many questions. And so I think that this guy might actually end up being a very good villain for this manga. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. I love that he's blended in for several chapters at this point. That's really cool, but only time will tell if he'll be a great villain or not. But I do have high hopes for him, which means we'll move on to the next highlight, which is Dr. Stone. Another manga I don't highlight that often, but I just had to this week. This was a phenomenal Dr. Stone chapter. First of all, I love the stuff with Kohaku saying, she's finally getting to fight with others. She's been the strongest in her village for a long time, so she hasn't had, companions to fight with, but now that Tsukasa and, oh my word, what's his name? Hyo, I think? The spear guy. Anyway, I'm sorry. I should definitely know his name by now, but I don't. But she gets these companions to fight with her, and it's really cool. I like that moment. I love the Tsukasa moment where he just shuts down the woman, MMA fighter from America. I thought that was amazing. Just showing his superior strength and his just indomitable physical strength was so cool. And I mean, they're fighting against guns though, so they do go down, and that makes sense, and that is all, that checks out. They complete their mission, they take out the radio waves, but all three of them are shot down. I believe he says that the spear guy is actually dead already, and that him and Kohaku are about to die. And then I love that scene, and it's a beautiful panel by Boichi. He's a phenomenal artist, but this one, every once in a while he blows me away with how good his artwork is. This chapter was one of them. I love Tsukasa looking up at the stars and saying, I'm counting on your science now, Senku. I've put all my eggs in this basket. I'm counting on your science to revive us. It was a really cool moment. Great Dr. Stone chapter. Definitely had to highlight it this week. But that'll bring us to my next chapter, which is Build King. I want to highlight Build King, and I know I highlighted it last week as well, but I wanted to highlight it again. And specifically, I want to highlight it because it had another, way more than last week. It was huge world building chapter. So we got a little bit of the power system last week, but we got way more of the power system this week for what Build King is going to be with the introduction of Vigor colors. They demonstrated the whole Vigor color wheel, and we got to see all kinds of different powers that can be used and how they're used in construction, and then kind of almost how they're used in a fight. We got to see that evil looking guy just punch the crap out of Smith, the main proctor guy. So that was intriguing at the beginning. And I love the little altercation that the one ninja guy had with that giant Predator spider. I love that the Predator spider talked, and that the ninja guy was so taken aback by his talking. That was hilarious. So these colors can be counteracted by their opposing color, right? And so I think that's really cool. It gives me kind of an elemental power system. That's interesting. I'm sure eventually I'll do like a video on Build King, and in that I'll talk about its power system, obviously. But it's gonna be interesting. I'm not sure I'm fully on board yet, but I am interested to see what happens. I'm very interested in Smith. Him being able to withstand all of that guy's punches was very interesting. And it also looks like this chapter we were introduced to the main villains of the series, being the Satan Hills people and the Satan Hills annexes that are on their way to the testing site. I think that's what happened. But it was an interesting chapter, but I would like to wait and see where Build King goes with this power system from here. But it was an interesting chapter, big world building chapter, so I wanted to cover it in this newsletter. And that will bring us to my last highlight, which this week was me and Roboco. I'll say I'm a fan of me and Roboco. It's one of my favorite GOG manga running in the magazine right now. And so this week, as per usual, and if you've seen a lot of my newsletters, you know that I'm a big fan of anytime Matsuo and Gachi Gorilla are the main stars of a Me and Roboco chapter, and that's what happened this week. So this whole chapter revolves around their fight to get the other one to say that they are best friends. I love how intense these two get. I just about trying to get the other one to confess and being so stubborn as to not say it themselves that they are actually best friends. And of course they're best friends. We've seen them the whole time. These guys are insanely close friends. I love that they describe each other like a diamond and a sapphire at one point. Like they're so sincerely good friends. It's very interesting. And then Bondo, of course, coming at the end being like, aren't you guys best friends? He just puts it out there on the line. And they finally, can say it and everything. And then they bring Bondo in too. I was worried that Bondo was going to be left out, but the three of them are best friends. I like that a lot. But this chapter, anytime that Matsuo and Gachi Gorilla take center stage, these chapters are always my favorite Me and Roboco chapters, and that happened this week, so I had to highlight it. You gotta go read it. It's a good chapter. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for you this week. Thanks so much for listening. If you had anything to say, leave it down in the comments section. I'd love to interact with your comments. If you liked anything I had to say, like the video, subscribe to my channel. I bring you these newsletters every week, usually some kind of other video every other week, and we are currently in the Pillow 4 podcast. We're going through the Promised Neverland. So if you like the Promised Neverland, listen to the Pillow 4 podcast as well. But yep, like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Shonen Express, signing off.